What's going on, everybody? It's the Creative Fro, checking back in for another episode of What I Wish I Knew Wednesday. And today I wanted to give you some tips that will help you achieve the film look on your next cinematic edit. But before we dive into these tips today, don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button if you have yet to already, and also turn that notification bell on just for fun. When I first started creating cinematic edits, I didn't know what it took to achieve that film look, so I put together 6 tips that I wish I knew when I first started out that you can use to help you achieve that look. These aren't all the tips, there's a lot more to go into, but these tips can help you get started, and it's going to give you the skills you need to help you get to that next level. Tip number 1 is use manual mode. Now when you use manual mode, you're going to have full control of your camera. You'll be able to set your ISO, shutter speed, and frame rate. Along with that, on your lens, you're going to want to choose manual focus because this is going to give you more control. When you choose autofocus, sometimes the camera likes to hunt for its focus. So if you were to end up using that footage where the camera is looking for the focus, it can come off kind of amateurish in your video and would therefore kill the cinematic feel. So make sure in manual mode so you have full control. The next thing you want to think about is the frame rate. Now, what we are conditioned to see is 24 frames per second. So make sure that your final edit is 24 frames per second. Every big movie that we see in the theater or on TV is all done in 24 frames. So this is the frame rate that you need to use to give your footage that cinematic feel. Tip number 3 is shutter speed. When you're thinking about what shutter speed to use, think of the 180-degree rule. This rule means whatever your frame rate is, times that by 2, and that will give you the shutter speed you need to be at. So for example, if you're shooting a clip at 24 frames per second, you're going to want your shutter speed to be 48 frames per second. Sometimes cameras can't go to 48 frames per second, so you can go to 50. Whenever you double your frame rate, it makes the motion blur more natural so it doesn't happen too quick or too choppy. Tip number 4, we have picture profile. When you're trying to shoot a cinematic video, you want to use a flat picture profile. This is going to give you the capability to pull out the highlights, the shadows, and the colors that you want in your final edit. And by having the ability to change your color and lights, you can create your own look, which therefore gives you your own cinematic feel. So anytime you shoot a video, you can have the same kind of theme to it, and it separates you from everyone else. Tip number 5 is we want to be in a wide aspect ratio. So there's a couple ways you can do this. The first thing is adding a letterbox effect on top of the video, and these are just the black bars at the top and the bottom, and this helps give the viewer a wider view of the video and makes it feel as if it's playing in the movie theater. Or if you don't want to add the black bars, you can simply in your editing program change the aspect ratio to 1920 by 817, and that's going to give you a wider aspect ratio. Tip number 6, we have grain. Now you've probably already seen this on a lot of films, but most of them do have grain on them. So when you add a little bit of grain onto your film, set at the opacity maybe 50 or lower, this can help give it that cinematic feel because our eye is conditioned to see that, and it adds a nice texture to the video too as well. So there's 6 tips that you can think about next time you go to shoot a video and you want to create a more cinematic feel or the film look to it. Remember to be in manual mode so you have full control. Our frame rate is 24 frames per second. Even if you shoot 60 frames, we can convert that down to 24 frames in post-production. Our shutter speed is at the 180-degree rule, so anything that our frame rate is at is double for the shutter. We have the picture profile, so you want to have a flat profile, and that gives you the ability to pull those colors and lights back that you need. You need a wide aspect ratio to give us the wide, real cinematic feel. And don't forget the grain. This is going to bring more texture to the scene and give it a more cinematic feel. So to get a better understanding of how these tips really work and what it looks like to use them, why don't you join us back here this upcoming Sunday for Fireside Tech, where I'll jump behind the camera to make a quick cinematic edit so you can have a better idea of how this looks. So that's everything for today's video. Please like if you did, comment down below if there's anything you wish you knew, and share this video if you think it could help somebody. I will catch you next Wednesday on another episode of What I Wish I Knew. Until then, keep creating.